something I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs is like we get super invested in what we're trying to build. And so it gets kind of hard to balance our time.
The way I look at it is, it's not necessarily a 9-to-5 structure. It's you get it done whenever you can get it done.
What has been your current strategy to actually get clients?
We've gone to them and said, hey, we've got this delivery platform. We have a 90% close rate when we reach the decision maker in these companies. Integrate us with your software and we'll give you a kickback if your customers sign on.
What advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are just starting out or are in your shoes, like they've watched the How I Built This podcast and they want to start their own business?
Figure out what you're passionate about, but also figure out what...
Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Founder Scoop. My name is Jacob Lee, and today I have with me Claire Larson, who's the founder of Errand. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Would you mind giving me just a snapshot? What is Errand?
Yeah, so we are a B2B delivery and logistics software focusing on perishable goods, e-commerce. So we offer delivery from warehouse to consumer at no price tag to the business.
Wow, that's awesome. And how long has Errand been running?
So we've been going for about 2.5 years. When we started, we were something completely different from what we are now. So there's been a lot of pivots, and it's just been really exciting.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive into your journey as an entrepreneur. Where are you from?
I'm from Centerville, Utah, about 10 minutes north of Salt Lake City.
Okay, cool. And did you grow up in like a very entrepreneurial household, or what got you inspired?
Yeah, no, not at all, honestly. My dad, he always worked in pharmaceutical sales. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had a career before she had all of us, but what really got me into it is I had a friend introduce me to the How I Built This podcast. So podcasts like these are huge for young entrepreneurs, and I was just obsessed with the idea of doing my own thing.
I love it. And when did you first hear about the podcast?
I had just graduated high school, and I was about to go into my first year of college, and I had a job as like a quality assurance agent, and one of my coworkers, I asked him for podcast recommendations, and he was like, oh, listen to this one. And for that entire summer where I was just doing quality assurance, pretty mindless work, I listened to probably every single episode.
Holy cow.
I thought it was so cool.
There's so many episodes. I love that podcast.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah.
Really.
Now it gives me anxiety now that I'm like in it, but it was good at the time to get me inspired. Now I'm like, okay, I just got to focus on what I'm doing.
That's awesome. So how long did it take before you had your first idea and you started to build your own business?
Yeah, so it actually, I had gone for my first year of college. I ended up going on a mission, did that whole thing, went back to BYU, and I was still in love with the idea of marketing for a startup. That was always my goal. I studied marketing, and then I met my husband, Kason, and he was in the entrepreneurship class at BYU, and he had come up with this idea, and him and I just together kind of just started and took the first steps.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where did he get the idea for Errand?
The original idea was an Uber for kids. So the idea was, so he's the oldest of 5 kids. He took the entrepreneurship class. It was ask people about pain points in your life. He went to his mom, who, has 5 kids, and said, what are your pains? And she said, driving you kids around. I don't have enough time. Like, one person's going to dance, one person's going to soccer. It's too complicated. So that was his idea, do a super vetted system. He took that to his entrepreneurship professor. He said it's a great idea. He validated it. But, at the end of the day, there's a lot of liability that comes with that, as you can imagine. So that's where the ideas started to morph.
Nice. So did you guys get lots of feedback from other moms as well? And that's when you decided to start to pivot?
So, yes, the initial validation, and he had done the validation for the Kid Uber before I even had met him. The initial validation was super positive from moms. Yeah, if it was a vetted system, like the price point wasn't too high, I would absolutely do it. It would solve a huge problem in my life. But at the end of the day, in practice, legal wise, there's a lot more that goes into it. So we kind of sat back and said, you know what, there's a lot more that's taking away time from parents, errands, hence the name, pharmacy pickups, grocery shopping, miscellaneous pickup drop-offs. So that's where it morphed to the more errand idea. And it's funny because that's not even where we're at now. So it continues to morph until you really find what your customers are wanting.
So how did you get to where you are now with with what Errand does?
Yeah. So, I mean, we started with Errand, right? And we said, we built a website. We said, it doesn't have to be extravagant. We built a landing page where people could book errands, and we had errand runners sign up, and it was all done via texting group chats. Who can do this? Who can do that? Very manual. We built, we got traction. We had customers that were booking continuously. We built up our revenue to a point where we went to investors and said, hey, this isn't just a theory. People are going to this dinky website and booking errands. We need to build some automation and some tech around this. We raised some money. We built a consumer app and a driver app, functioning very similarly to, like a DoorDash, very gig economy 1099 style. And we just wait for it. At the end of the day, though, you look at companies like DoorDash and Uber. Uber was just now profitable last year. It takes a lot of infrastructure.
Just last year that they became profitable?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. It just, those B2C companies, business to consumer, millions and millions of dollars to make an impact, and you need so many customers and repeat customers. There's just a lot that goes into it, which it's not an impossible feat. It was just really difficult with the funding that we had to get it to the place that we needed it to go. And we had businesses come to us and say, you have this whole driver infrastructure. Can we just access your drivers? We have all of these business deliveries going out. First and foremost, there were meal prep companies that were coming to us saying, hey, we've got 200 deliveries that go out every Monday locally. Can we use your drivers? And we said, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's great business for us. 200 deliveries a week from one company? Sure. That sounds great. So.
And did they approach you?
Yeah, they approached us and said, this is what we need. And, we did it with one company. They would use our drivers. We would access a different routing software because we didn't have that built into our tech. So we use the routing software. We'd route it for them and send out our drivers. It was super manual because our app couldn't handle deliveries like that, 20 deliveries at once in a route. And then we realized we kind of had something there. More companies were hearing like, oh, can we access your drivers? Can we access? And all of a sudden, our business was 90% B2B. So we're like, okay, we need to build tech around this.
So when did that happen? That last shift to B2B?
To B2B, that was beginning of this year.
Beginning of this year.
So January of this year, we shifted to a B2B style, and we had our tech guy, Scott. He's awesome. He built tech around routing. So it goes to our app. They upload 200 deliveries at once. And, a lot of them are perishable goods. So they say they need to be done within a 3-hour time frame. So our app automatically routes it and assigns it to drivers so that everything can be done within that time frame so that the food doesn't go bad.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What other businesses approached you other than food delivery services?
So e-commerce companies as well who are wanting to turn into an Amazon-like structure, who have a lot of local deliveries going out. They appreciate the structure of, timely delivery windows. They can do it either every day or once a week for cheaper or the same rate as flat rate shipping. So, a lot of e-commerce, mostly perishable goods at this point, have seen a bigger impact with what we're offering just because of the fact that we're able to get everything done in such a short amount of time.
So what has been one of the biggest challenges in growing Errand?
The pivot's really nailing down the ideal customer profile, the ICP, right? Seeing what people need and building accordingly. That's definitely the advice I'd have for people is let your customers tell you what they're wanting. Validation, research, that can only go so far. Your customers will tell you exactly what they're needing.
What was the biggest customer insight that you guys got? I know you've mentioned a couple pivots. What was the most important thing that you learned?
From our customers, learning really just listening and making sure that you're constantly talking to your customers and taking their feedback and applying their feedback. That's been the biggest thing that's helped us grow, truthfully, is they told us the software that they needed. They told us, the delivery windows, all of that. And we were able to build a customizable platform around their feedback.
How did you go about collecting this feedback?
It's interesting because we're able to do a large amount of revenue with a really small customer base. So I'm able to keep really personal relationships with the companies that we do have. I try to do, a call whenever is needed, and I gather the feedback. Sometimes you do things that don't scale at the beginning to be able to really nail down your product so that your product is exactly what your customers are wanting. So when you do scale, you have the ICP and you have the exact tech that is needed to be able to scale at the market size that you're wanting.
How do you plan to scale? It sounds like a lot of it is very like personal relationship based. How do you plan to scale and get more customers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is what we're doing. You know, we're about to open our raise to be able to open it up. What we have is we have partnerships with different point of sale softwares for e-commerce companies, and they feed us deals automatically. You know, if they opt in for delivery, they come to us, and we don't have the infrastructure to be able to handle the volume that our point of sale software partnerships are wanting to give us. So that's really our strategic plan to grow, and we need money and the resources to be able to do that. So that's really what our next raise is focused on. Right now we're across 21 states with these businesses. So if we're able to hire more people, you know, more customer service, more of, you know, business retention, and really keeping up those partnerships, we'll be able to expand very quickly.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's been good.
What's your plan for raising capital this next round?
Yeah. So what we've done, we've opened it up to angel investors initially, and we're going more the VC route. We like sticking with angel investors just because of, you know, the relationships that we've gained, but we find it probably critical to go the VC route, but really, you know, a little bit of everything.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
What role has iHub played in the growth of your company?
Oh my goodness, iHub's been amazing. I mean, first of all, you know, we have office space. There's people here every day to collaborate with, bounce ideas off of. The mentors that come in have been awesome. Just talking with them, you know, they've faced similar problems in the businesses that they've built. So asking them specific questions, and they've just been very, very helpful.
What were you doing before you were here at iHub?
We had an office space in Pleasant Grove. So just a place where we could go, kind of put our heads together. You know, I had a baby a year ago, so I've been doing a lot more work from home with him, but he comes into the office, he's here now. And so it's just making it work.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Tell me more about like managing a business while having like your first child. Like, what is that like? How are you guys managing?
Takes a village. I mean, you know, my husband and I were co-founders, so we both take a lot of the responsibility. You know, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100, right? So luckily he's been a very amazing independent baby. You know, we lay out his toys. I'll sit down with my laptop on the ground and work while he plays, and we just make it happen. He takes a long nap every day, and I go into turbo work mode.
That's cool. It looks like you and your husband work really well together. What has that relationship been like as you've been growing this business?
I mean, we've been very lucky. What I will say is pretty much our whole marriage, we've been at this. You know, I mean, he had the idea for the kid Uber before we even met. So we've had the idea of starting something from the get. So really being able, you know, it's all we've known. So I think we've been able to adapt, but we've been able to work it out, and we're able to separate kind of the work and the relationship part, and we just feel really lucky.
That's awesome. Something I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs is like we get super invested in what we're trying to build, and so it gets kind of hard to balance our time. How do you guys balance your time like between your business and your relationships?
It's a great question. I mean, sometimes it all blends together. The way that we look at it is, you know, we have a lot of passions, you know, we have a lot of things that we're doing. The way I look at it is, you know, it's not necessarily a 9-to-5 structure. It's you get it done whenever you can get it done. If I need to do something at 10 a.m. that's completely unrelated, I do that thing, and then I finish my work at 10 p.m. Maybe that structure wouldn't work for everyone, but the way I look at it, especially with having a kid, it's I need to get stuff done when it's feasible. And as long as it all gets done, then we're good.
Love it. That's really cool. So what is your guys' exit strategy? Do you plan to sell Errand?
I mean, yeah, that's definitely our plan, is to build it up to a certain point and become attractive enough to, you know, other delivery companies. Think, you know, FedEx, UPS, these companies have acquired different companies like ours who are handling different styles of last mile delivery. So building it up to a certain point where we'd become attractive to a company like that and sell.
I like it. Do you plan to scale like nationwide as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, we're in 21 states. With this next raise, we plan to go completely nationwide.
That's really exciting. Congrats.
Thank you.
So what has been your current strategy to actually get clients? I know you said in the beginning, like, the first businesses, they approached you. I'm assuming you've probably started approaching businesses now. What's that strategy look like?
For sure. So yeah, they approached us and said, hey, you guys have drivers. We need drivers. This is what's going on. And we started, the main thing has been these partnerships with point of sale softwares. It's like a Shopify. A lot of them are specifically in the perishable goods sphere. And we've gone to them and said, hey, we've got this delivery platform. We have a 90% close rate when we reach the decision maker in these companies. Integrate us with your software and we'll give you a kickback if your customers sign on. So that's been the easiest way to grow. Obviously we have a sales rep. We have Kaysen, who's head of sales as well. Who, they do cold calling and things like that. But the main growth strategy has been with these strategic partnerships.
I like it. What exactly is a point of sale software?
Yeah, great question. So when you're starting a business, let's say you want to sell sweatshirts online as an e-commerce company, you're probably going to sign up with a Shopify, right? That's a point of sale software for e-commerce specifically. But there are other point of sale softwares that hone in on specific industries. And we're partnered with a lot of the point of sale softwares that focus on perishable goods.
I like that. Well, what has been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned? I mean, you've mentioned already that pivoting has been essential in your business. What are some other lessons that you've learned?
That's a great question. I mean, so many things. First and foremost, you learn a lot about yourself in the way that you deal with stress. Some people thrive in a stressful environment and some people collapse. And it's just learning, the type of person that you are and making necessary adjustments to be able to fit your lifestyle. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you find that you're someone that can't handle stress, maybe you need to look inward and figure out what you need to do for yourself before you start out on an entrepreneurial journey. So for me, it's just really been learning how to manage the stress and to let it fuel me instead of stop me.
How do you manage stress when you're trying to build your business?
Keeping active. I have a walking pad. That's changed my life. Just being able to stay active, walk while I'm working, kind of keep the distraction. Also keeping it lighthearted, realizing, I'm not an ER doctor. This is just delivery. This is just marketing. It's not anything crazy. Kind of just pulling away and looking at it with a fresh perspective of everything's really going to be okay. I'm on a floating rock. Everything is okay. Yeah. So for me, that really helps. I know for my husband, it's, keeping up on his hobbies. He's really into hunting, just making sure to keep that a priority, despite the fact that he works 24/7, being able to prioritize his hobbies has been really huge for him. So I think it's just different for everyone.
What advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are just starting out or are in your shoes, like they've watched the How I Built This podcast and they want to start their own business? What advice do you have for them?
Figure out what you're passionate about, but also figure out what true needs there are in the world, because there's a lot of things that, people will tell you, oh, I'd use that. But make sure that you start something that's an actual need, not a need to have, not a want to have, if that makes sense. I think if you can separate the two and build a need to have, then you will set yourself up for success. For example, I think Errand, as we started, running errands for people, tasks, etc., that's a want to have. I think, a lot of people would love to have the ability to send somebody out to do their things, whereas what we're doing now is an absolute no-brainer and it's a need to have. So if you can bridge that gap, there will be nothing stopping you.
Claire, I really appreciate you joining me on this show.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you so much.